Yeah, shalom. I'm your brother Yekabin, and today we're here to talk about Christmas. We're going to give you the history of it, we're going to talk about where it comes from, and we're going to ask ourselves a question. Why do we celebrate Christmas?
It says, for the customs of the people are vanity. A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe by the hands of a craftsman.
All right, hold on, wait. Hey, so let's break that down and say, so a motherfucker cutting the tree down, right?
Yeah.
That's what the craftsman, all that just said.
Exactly.
Somebody cutting the tree down. So you see motherfuckers going to the store getting Christmas trees, and you going to the forest getting trees. Motherfuckers probably cutting trees down and shit, right?
While most ethnic Europeans now celebrate Christmas in one form or another, either according to the Julian or Gregorian date, the origins of most elements of the Christmas celebration do not have their origin in Christianity. Flying reindeer and elves are hardly Christian after all, but even the date may not be of Christian origin. While we should be aware that much related to modern Christmas was carefully crafted and marketed within the modern era in order to create a more secular and increasingly commercialized event, there most certainly were celebrations held around midwinter throughout Europe, long before the Christian religion existed, in a time when European peoples worshipped their own gods and held their own myths and histories and the celebrations that accompanied them.
Keep going.
He says, they decorated with silver and gold.
Wait a minute, so when they take that motherfucker to the crib, they be putting all these ornaments and shit on it, decorating the ornaments in silver and gold, right? Wait a minute, you reading out the Bible, right? You ain't making this shit up. Okay, cool, keep going.
They fastened it with a hammer and nails.
So they be hanging shit up.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
But nowadays they can just go buy it and get out.
Oh, you already know it. It's new times, you know what I'm saying? There's new ways to worship this devil worship going on. There's new ways this pagan worship going on. Keep going.
So that it cannot move.
Yeah, they keep it still.
Their idols are like scarecrows in the cucumber field, and they cannot speak.
Wait, stop right there. So in the Christmas scenario, we ain't talking about the Halloween, the Easter, we ain't talking about the Valentine's Day and all this other pagan ass shit. Right now we talking about Christmas. Christmas, who is the idol?
You got
Saint Nick.
Santa Claus.
You got crumpets too.
You got Santa Claus. We ain't talking about over in Australia. We talking about right here in the United States. In Australia, they got crumpets. They ain't bullshitting in Australia. In Australia, they letting you know who Saint Nick is. They letting you know who crumpets is. Here in the United States, they try and sugarcoat them. They try and wrap them all up, make them look all pretty.
Right.
But Santa Claus, can he speak besides on cartoons and shit? Can he speak? So if you got a picture of him, he like a scarecrow, like the Bible says, like a scarecrow in their fields. He can't move, he can't speak. You give him that power. Right? That's the idol that they talking about.
And our Christmas before Christ.
The deities Baal and Tammuz were worshipped by the ancient Moabites under the names Chemosh and Molech. We see that the names changed, but the worship remained identical. The ancient Moabites would celebrate a public child mass, a public child sacrifice during the winter solstice during December 25th. Building up to this most anticipated time of year, all the parents would compile long wish lists that they would like to see in the next year. Then they would bring the infants that were born within that year to the idol Chemosh or Molech. The priest of Chemosh or Molech would stoke large fires inside of the hollow metal idol of the deity. The parent would bring their child screaming to the lap of this deity and lay their child in the lap of Molech, who wore the Phrygian cap that we see that Santa Claus wears to this day, the same cap that Mithra wore, and they would lay their screaming child in the arm of this deity while they begin to profess their long list of desires for the year. Now today we don't see that people are sacrificing their children to Molech, but we do see that they bring their screaming infants, their screaming children, and lay them into the lap of a complete stranger dressed up like a mighty one who they call Santa Claus. And this child is usually screaming their guts out because they're so afraid of this man, and they probably sense the darkness and the demonic forces that are at work. Children, infants, hate Santa Claus, and the proof is in the pictures. Now, of course, after a few years, the child will begin to love Santa Claus and look at Santa Claus as an all-supreme, all-wise, all-knowing, giving deity of prosperity, just as the ancient Moabites looked at Molech and Chemosh. He knows when you are sleeping, and he knows when you are awake. In fact, he is all-knowing. He is immortal. He has no beginning and no end. He compiles a list of names on a scroll for the good and the bad children. He rewards the good children with gifts, and he punishes the bad children with lumps of coal reminiscent of the flames of Molech. He answers their prayers and their petitions. He flies on a magical chariot, just like Mithra, Sol Invictus, and Odin before him. In fact, he is a deity of prosperity, worshipped by the people of the world. And it's amazing that Christian parents would put this idol and tell them that he exists. And while they're young, they will believe it with all of their heart until finally they are crushed under the realization that their parents had tricked them. And now they will question everything that their parents will ever teach them about the scriptures because of this innocent white lie, as they say. Santa and his elves have a very dark past. Santa is identified as an elf in most of the world. The Celts believed that the elves were witches and wizards, and they were identified by their pointy or Phrygian caps. And they were the teachers of the dark arts. Webster's dictionary describes an elf as a wandering spirit, a fairy, a hobgoblin, an imaginary being which our rude ancestors supposed to inhabit unfrequented places and in various ways to affect mankind. Also, an evil spirit or a devil. Places like Austria, Hungary, Germany, Italy, and elsewhere, Santa Claus is identified by his original name, which is Sinterklaas. And there are variations of Sinterklaas throughout Europe. Some variations have Sinterklaas riding on a magical flying goat. Other versions have him riding on a magical flying white horse. Either way, he is always accompanied by dark helpers. Usually they are referred to as the Krampus. And the Krampus is a half goat, half man demon that goes with Sinterklaas from house to house. In the 1500s, Sinterklaas became a kind old man who gave gifts and flew on his magical chariot and was accompanied by these dark helpers or blackjacks. He was Christianized as a saint by the name of Nicholas, supposedly based on the saint of Myra in Turkey, who was legendary. He would leave gifts under the sacred tree on his birthday if you had been good, but if you had not, his demons, his Krampuses, would either abduct you or beat you with sticks. Saint Nicholas supposedly captured Satan and called him by various names: the Krampus, Baalzebub, Zwartdeit, or the Black Peter, and Neck Ruprecht. And these were just some of the names. In some of the cultures, Sinterklaas was dropped altogether, and the only remaining figure was the Krampus, which was kept and known as Weihnachtsmann, which means Santa Claus in the Germanic languages. In other words, in some cultures, Santa Claus is known to be Satan himself, who is the Krampus.